that is, of course, Bruce Kent. And so, along with Valerie Flessati, who wrote a fantastic book about Christian CND, I think for our 50th anniversary, we asked them if they would be willing to share some of their thoughts and reflections and memories from the history of Christian CND. So I'm going to pass over to Valerie and Bruce now.
Is it all right to start?
Please, Bruce.
I can start. Well, I'm really in antiquity. I don't really belong here at all. I started off in a very warlike life. Cadet corps in school. I was an excellent bugler once when I was 14 years old, and then went on to be a proper cadet in a boarding school. And every meal I had in the big dining room, we had 8 holders of the Victoria Cross on a portrait. So we were not a peaceful lot, really. We were quite warlike, and everybody went into conscription, and as I did, and it was a normal thing to do. So we had how on earth did I get involved in CND, which I did. How did I get involved? Well, I was ordained as a Roman Catholic priest and went to a parish and became the director of a youth club, and I saw some nice outings that somebody called Pax Christi, I never heard of, Pax Christi had organized. And so I got some of my youth to go on these outings, pilgrimages in the summer, and it went down very well. And about a week later, a man came and said, would I mind being the chaplain to Pax Christi? But I thought that's pretty rapid promotion. But anyway, that's where I ended up with Pax Christi. And it wasn't until much later when I bumped into CND, and I bumped into CND in a very aggressive way, because I was busy marrying people on the Monday morning of August the 29th, and Easter Monday, and I had about 6 or 7 brides to deal with, and they were all late. Everybody was late, and I was furious. I expected people to be on time. And I asked why were they all late, and they said because some lot called CND are walking down Kensington High Street and blocking up the traffic. And I thought, well, bloody hell, who the hell does CND think they are if they can interrupt with my weddings? So that's how my introduction to CND. But I wore off my hostility later on when I met an absolutely marvelous Jesuit called Thomas Roberts, who wasn't very popular with the other bishops. But he said to me about nuclear weapons, he said, look here, Bruce, are you willing at some stage to press a button to kill hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians? And I said, well, no, but no one's ever put that to me. He said, well, that's what nuclear weapons are, mass killing of innocent people. Do you agree with that? I said, no. And that began my downhill slope into CND. And I became then a chaplain or something, I've forgotten what, in CND. But CND in the 60s was going downhill, in the 50s was going downhill quite rapidly. It wasn't a big organization anymore. The Vietnam War came along and took a lot of interest and so on. So we had committee meetings of about 7 people in a convent in Euston, and that was CND's national figure. So the Polaris submarine was the thing that drew our focus, and I did go up to Faz Lane, to Polaris, and operated strongly up there with taking holy water and blessing the base and exorcism, what I call the devil out of the base. Well, that didn't go down very well, I can tell you, with Catholic right-wingers. Who's he talking about a devil? So that was the early stage. And CND took off radically in the beginning of the 80s with the cruise missile crisis and everything. And suddenly we were landed in Hyde Park facing 100,000 or at least many thousand people in Hyde Park, packed out. And so that's when the CND that I joined really flourished in a big way. and spread all around the country, Wales, Scotland, all over the place. People taking direct action, people going to prison, all very heroic stuff. A lot of people involved. But at that stage, I've now done more than my 5 minutes. I'm passing on for the rest of the story to someone who knows it better than me, and that is Valerie Flessati. You can applaud now if you want to.
Thank you. So we've been asked to share some memories of the past 60 years. Well, I don't go quite back that far with Christian CND, but I've chosen a few photographs to try and share of events that stick in my memory, and I expect they'll prompt some for you too. So I'm going to share my screen with these pictures. Okay, so this was my first demonstration, and it was actually a Christian CND event down at Porton, which was the research establishment, British research establishment, not for nuclear, but for chemical and biological warfare. And this event was in May, Whitsun 1970, and it was led by a Dominican called Father Simon Blake. And I remember a freezing night spent on a plane, but in 1972, a convention on the prohibition of biological weapons came into being. This was a big international issue. So that's the first of my picture memories. These ones I've chosen because this was when, in 1973, we went up to Faslane at Easter and performed a ceremony of exorcism and purging, which Bruce just referred to. O Lord, remove the spirit of evil from this place, from weapons of murder, save, O Lord, your people. And for me, this represents something that Christians have brought into CND as a whole, a new way of looking at things, also naming the evil of nuclear weapons for what it is. And my third couple of pictures are from the 1980s, and these are to represent the very heady and exhilarating times that many of you will remember too, when Christian CND could assemble 900 people in Coventry Cathedral, or 2,000 Christians to encircle the Ministry of Defence with a peace ribbon, including a large number of members of different religious congregations. So what has Christian CND offered us? Well, a lot of very formative experiences that shaped us. We learnt to organise quite large field events with all the skills that needed. We'd arrive at some military base, usually in the middle of the countryside in all weathers. There was always a very good spirit, a sense of purpose and solidarity, plus the sheer enjoyment of meeting up with friends from all over the country. Christian CND applies our Christian tradition to urgent defence issues by holding our events at significant dates in the Christian calendar, like Ash Wednesday and Easter and Pentecost, etc. And we use symbols and liturgical drama, holding up the white crosses against the cruise missile convoys, or sprinkling ashes on runways and the Ministry of Defence itself. I also remember a lot of people. For me, the most notable was who became the Christian CND organizer in 1982. She was an exceptional leader, creative, imaginative, articulate with the media, fearless in both dialogue and resistance, and with a sense of enthusiasm and fun that drew people into it, whether they were Christian or not. I remember a lot of volunteers like Christoph Baschan, a young German who came to Christian CND from the Action Reconciliation movement for conscientious objectors. Volunteers who came via the Brethren Church in the United States. I remember a man called Fred who invented those folding white crosses, which were so handy on public transport. Angela and Helen, who camped at Molesworth with their multicolored caravan. And wonderful stalwart campaigners like Bobby and Margaret Harrison from Dumbarton, who we used to look out for in Scotland. I remember inspiring speakers like Father George Zabelka, the former US chaplain to the atomic bombing crew, or atom bomb survivor Setsuko Furlow. So what a privilege to work alongside those sort of people. One of the times that Christian CND contributed most to CND events was in the days of massive demonstrations. The organizers could rely on a large, disciplined Christian contingent who would maintain a spirit of unity and non-violence, whatever the provocation, and who had a repertoire of good songs. Sometimes even the police joined in. I was thinking recently about the best marching hymns, and the most stirring included Be Not Afraid, Walk in the Light, and All Over the Land, the Spirit is Moving. Do you know, I think those are rather good messages to carry in our heads as we continue our campaigning journey today. So congratulations to everyone on 60 years of hard work. On we go.